talkSPORT understands Arne Slot retains the backing of the Liverpool hierarchy despite their poor run of results. Their 4-1 defeat at home the other night was their 9th loss in 11 games, in the 3rd game on the trot where they've conceded 3 or more goals. Next up for them is a trip to a resurgent West Ham, and here's manager Arne Slot, who's been asked if his players still have full belief in what he's doing.
After the 3-1, it's very difficult to get a message across to them when I'm at the sideline. But before the game and during half-time, I think the message comes across to them. If I see how we create our chances, it is a lot of the things we train and what is in the meeting. But unfortunately, it doesn't lead to goals, and that is difficult for them, for me, for our fans, for everyone. But that the message comes across is very clear to me if I see the way we generate our chances. That is a lot from the work we do on the training pitch and during the meetings. So yeah, that's for me, that's obvious. But yeah, when we're 3-1 down, then it's difficult to get the message across if you're standing not so far, but if you're not standing on the pitch.
Kweku, I'm going to go out and say that talk of sacking Arne Slot is a little bit premature.
Do you think so?
I think so.
I don't.
Do you agree? Disagree?
I disagree. I don't think so. I took flack from Liverpool fans for saying this, but I'm not having him as a quality manager. I understand that he won the league last season, and congratulations to him for doing that. But I think he was lauded for doing something that we've never seen before, winning the league in your first season at a club. We've seen it multiple times. We've seen it loads of times. Mourinho did it. Ancelotti did it, Pellegrini did it, Conte did it, Ranieri did it at Leicester, and Slot did it last season. And a lot of those managers lost their job after their second season or during their second season. And so I think the struggles Liverpool are having this season is what people expected to see last year, taken over from Jurgen Klopp. But the evidence is overwhelming, Harry. We talked about it in the opening section. They lost 3-0 at home against Crystal Palace, and you can chalk that up to the fact that it was the League Cup and they rotated heavily. Fair enough. Losing 3-0 at home against Nottingham Forest in the league, unacceptable. Losing 4-1 at home against PSV in the Champions League, unacceptable. There's been so many poor results this season, and then aside from the results, before this terrible run, there were so many poor performances and they were getting away with it. Think about the last minute penalty they got against Burnley. Think about the way they beat Newcastle. Think about the way they beat Bournemouth. Think about the way they beat Arsenal. It was a worldy Szoboszlai free kick. I've not seen a good Liverpool performance this season, barring the Real Madrid game in the Champions League. And if you're 12 games into the league season and you're yet to see multiple good performances, then I think there's right to question the manager's future. Liverpool are a club that have never sacked a manager that have won the league title for them. And there's a lot to be said about clubs like Liverpool and Arsenal, Manchester United that tend to give managers time. But when the evidence is overwhelming that this is not working and it seems like it's a fractured dressing room, then the only person you can change to change the situation right now is the manager. And I think it's fair to question Arne Slot's long-term future at the club.
We heard from Curtis Jones in midweek after the game. He gave an interview to television. It was broadcast pretty much everywhere. You'd have seen it on social media if you're listening in, I'm sure. Was that telling? Did that give us some insight into maybe what the problem actually is? Because Arne Slot says things like, it's not about the effort levels. The effort is there. He's talked about the tactics that they've come up against. There's a lot of things that he said that I'm not really buying. But Curtis Jones felt like he was speaking from the heart.
Yeah, he was.
So has he sort of given it away a little bit in terms of what the actual issue is within the Liverpool camp right now?
Well, he said a lot, Curtis Jones. I think it's refreshing when you hear a player speak so candidly. I think we also have to consider the fact that Curtis Jones is a kid from Liverpool. Not only does he play for the team, he's a fan. And he was speaking like a fan and maybe gave a little bit too much away, but I'd rather that than hear a player not say anything. But there's a multitude of reasons, right? And some of them aren't Arne Slot's fault. Trent wanted to leave. And I think we're seeing the effects of no Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool. As much as people want to deride him and say he can't defend, going forward, he's generational and he brought the best out of Mo Salah. He's not there anymore. Obviously, the unfortunate passing of Diogo Jota, who was so close to so many of those Liverpool players, that's going to have a huge effect on the team. But on the pitch, we are seeing players not giving maximum effort. We are seeing players that look like they're past their best. We are seeing the poor integration of these new players that Liverpool spent £400 million on in the summer. And in a league that I think has become more physical, Liverpool went in a finesse direction in the summer. Liverpool brought in Jeremy Frimpong and Wirtz and Ekatike and Isak. They are not dogs. They are finesse players that when things are going well, obviously they're going to look amazing, but I don't know if I want to be in the trenches with those players. They might prove me wrong in the future, but this season right now, where the Premier League is, Liverpool are the weakest team. Liverpool are easy to play against. And that's what Curtis Jones was speaking about. When he said you want to see people smash other players, that's what he's talking about. The lack of physicality, the lack of bite, the lack of doggedness, which was a mark of Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp. They're not that team anymore. And I think if you haven't got that base level of physicality, you are going to struggle in the Premier League in the 25-26 season.
If we go back to August, when Liverpool were really busy in the transfer market, they brought in all sorts of players. Obviously, it goes before August because the window started earlier, but you get what I'm saying. If you looked at their squad then, you would have gone, wow, title winners, starting from a position of strength, and they're going to add all these wonderful footballers. Surely they're going to run away with it. Surely they're going to win it at a canter. Do you think that the identification of those players was all on Arne Slot? Do you think Arne Slot had as big a role in those transfers as maybe others in the club did? Because that in itself will tell you who's responsible for what's happened. Because so many of those deals, they've not really worked. And they might work in the long term, but they haven't yet.
Yeah.
If they were transfers predominantly driven by Arne Slot, then I'm going to sit there and I'm going to say, Slot, you need to take some responsibility for this. But if they weren't, if these were deals that were driven and pushed by someone else, and those players were put onto him, and he was told, right, you got to make it work, then I've got more sympathy for him. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think in the answer to that question lies, the truth about who is the most culpable here.
Well, I completely agree, right? And I understand there's an integration period when you are bringing in so many new players. But that should result in you being where Man City are this season.
Yeah,
Liverpool
agreed.
are 12th. Liverpool have lost 6 games and won 6 games. Liverpool are defensively one of the worst teams in the league when you're just watching it in terms of eye test. I understand there's going to be a settling in period, but it shouldn't be as bad as this. It shouldn't be as bad as this. And again, when we talk about Liverpool, they are treated with different reverence to any other football club. If this was happening at Arsenal, take this exact situation, right? Arsenal went and spent £400 million, and at this point in the season, after 12 games, they're 12th, and they just lost at home 4-1 against PSV. What's the conversations? We are definitely talking about Arteta's future. With Liverpool, it's slightly different for various reasons, but let's be brutally honest. At any other football club, the manager's probably already got the sack. He won the league title last year. Congratulations. That was a great job you did. But this season, based on evidence, I can't see how you're turning it around. And maybe if he wasn't fully in control of the purse strings and the recruitment, what he is in control of is implementing those players. And when a player like Ekatike has scored 3 goals in the first 5 league games and is flying, and you decide to drop him. I know he got suspended against Southampton for taking the shirt off, but you dropped him for the game against Crystal Palace, your first loss of the season. You bring in Isak. Ekatike has not been the same since. He ain't scored a league goal since. That's on you as a manager. That's on you as a manager that you continue to play Kirkes, who, I'm sorry, looks like he's won a competition right now. He was good at Bournemouth last season, but how many people watch Bournemouth games? I call those players 3 p.m. players. Those players are players that the general public haven't necessarily seen too much of, and now we've got game tape on you. You look like you're not on this level. Again, these players might prove me wrong, that we have to give players time to develop, but based on the evidence that we're seeing right now, it's not working, and that's partly on Arne Slot. And the only thing that Liverpool hierarchy can do right now in terms of change that situation is changing Arne Slot. And I think that these conversations around his future are very fair.
We got to talk about West Ham. Of course, Liverpool's opponents this weekend at the London Stadium. If West Ham avoid defeat, that's 4 without defeat under Nuno. Now, you've got to say that there are not major improvements. I think that's going too far. But there are signs of life at the London Stadium with West Ham under Nuno. There is a good chance, I would say, that they get out of trouble, that they end up surviving, and quite comfortably as well. Is this the kind of game where Liverpool could further slip into that hole? Or do you think that they'll have too much for West Ham just because they're not a side at a great level right now?
I think if you looked at the fixture last week, you would have said, well, they're playing against Forest at Anfield. They're going to have too much for Forest, surely. After the international break refreshed, they got spanked. There is nothing within me that's telling me that Liverpool are going to go beat West Ham at the London Stadium. This is a West Ham that they'll be disappointed with last week's result, right? They went 2-0 up against Bournemouth, let it slip, but they're unbeaten in the last 3, winning 2 and drawing 1. Nuno's turned things around, and Nuno's track record is exemplary in the Premier League, minus the 10 games at Spurs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He brought Wolves up, took them to Europe.
I think they had 2 7th-placed finishes under him.
Incredible. And look at where Wolves are right now. They've not been the same since he left the football club. Look at what he did at Forest in terms of them being favourites to go down. He took them to Europe. I think that, again, this West Ham team is not as bad as what Graham Potter was showing us. I think they'll be comfortably safe this season because Nuno's a great manager. And I look at Liverpool and they can't buy a win. They are struggling for confidence. They are bereft of any confidence that you saw last season, which drove them to the Premier League title at a canter. And so I back West Ham in this game. I think that West Ham have got a great chance of getting a result. If not a win, maybe a draw, but I don't think a draw is good enough for Arne Slot in the situation right now. Liverpool fans are dying for a win, and you're starting to see a turn. Liverpool fans are patient, right? They're always going to back the team and back the manager. That's the mantra. But you are starting to see Liverpool fans talk about the future of Arne Slot and what that looks like, because this is not good enough. This is a team that won the league last season. And again, I think we talk about Liverpool and we use kid gloves when we talk about them. This is the second time we've seen it where their Premier League title defence has been disgraceful. The first time we could put it down to the fact that all their centre-backs got injured. Van Dijk's out of an ACL injury. They've lost a lot of their big players, and the Thiago move didn't really work. But what's the excuse for this season? I don't think any other manager in the world would be given the excuse of, you spent £400 million and you got worse. That doesn't run in football.
Yeah, I think you're right. And from a West Ham perspective, this is a big opportunity. Because if you're Nuno Espirito Santo, you're looking at this game and you're going, look, it's against Liverpool. Under normal circumstances, we don't win this game, okay? And our season will not be defined by our results against Liverpool. But given the form that they come into this game in, there is an opportunity for West Ham to produce the kind of results that would mean more than just 3 points. Think about the confidence. Think about the boost that it gives everyone involved with West Ham United. No matter what Liverpool's situation is, if the champions come to town and you dispatch of them. So I think for Nuno, there's a big opportunity here to get more than 3 points on the board in terms of the positive sort of consequences of a victory over a side as good as Liverpool and with that level of talent.
Of course, the consequences are huge. Like, again, Liverpool are the defending champions. When I point to a Chelsea win against Liverpool, I don't know how well that win has aged, but they are still the champions. It's still a scalp. And when you circle that fixture on the calendar, you look at that as a tough one. But if West Ham can go and get a result, then I think there's going to be less questions about their long-term future in the Premier League. And it's onwards and upwards for a team that looked destined for the drop just a few months ago. And now Nuno's come in and settled things down. And I think if you look at this West Ham squad, it's not as bad as what we previously thought. They've got some good players there. Callum Wilson, if you can keep him fit. And we've seen what Nuno did with Chris Wood, right? I don't think Callum Wilson can stay fit enough to give you those numbers of Chris Wood from last season, but he's a striker with Premier League pedigree. If he can score goals for them and they can get things going and Bowen can carry on being Jared Bowen, West Ham should steer clear of danger.